Hello, my dear friends and the viewers of my channel ABC of Truth. Hello, dear readers of my book. The name I gave to this chapter is Mexican Paleocontact of the Egyptian Rus. We will talk about all the ancient drawings on the stones and walls of the world civilization before the introduction of the Julian calendar from the birth of Christ. You already know the historical matrix of the world has been replaced. The real Rome is Rus Impera. All the icons and the atheistic images of letters, months, constellations, and weeks, and the ray of Apostle Andrew. The Apostle is not a gallows, but an astrophysical device for determining coordinates. And 13 is not the devil's number, it's the number of the constellations. And 66.6 is the angle of the inclination of the Earth's rotation axis to the plane of the ecliptic. This is not the number of the devil again. The world was intelligent and literate, but the religious inquisition has replaced everything, taking us into the abyss of ignorance. Do not try to penetrate into the information from the end. You will not understand anything. So be smart enough to start from the beginning of my videos. All the movies on my channel are numbered. The numbers are at the end of the title. The book is now publicly available on Yandex.Zen. You cannot find any electronic version of my book anywhere. I took my book off the sale in some online stores. Today, we will talk about such concepts as the Mexican paleocontact El Toro, the Mayan calendar, Mayan iconography, galactic disk, antikyrian mechanism, Phaistos disk, Anko-Egyptian motifs. Let us start from the main stone of this chapter, where the disk depicts an ostensibly flying saucer, 2 aliens, 2 children, and 1 Earth inhabitant. One alien passes the kid into a flying saucer. The second passes the kid to the inhabitant of the Earth. You can search it on the internet for yourself and see everything. Just Google Mexican paleocontact and find this image. Now, we will have happening what usually happens when the matrix is broken: a hysterical quiet joy, consciousness, and the mad resentment of Masonic liars. I have already told you that America was the part of Russian culture, and I told you that the Americans did not destroy the Indians. We remember Nevsky Prospect, the prospect of the omniscient eye, or rather, God's eye. In fact, it is a perspective. Any road going far away is drawn this way. We remember the sun rising at the beginning of the man's summer. And we can remember one of the icons, martel, an atheistic icon that proves that Peter the Great did not build St. Petersburg. Now we can compare it with the image on this stone. Oh, a miracle! We can see that the image is the same. The women's summer goes away and the man's summer comes. I have already told you a lot about it in my previous movies. I made a whole movie about the rising sun in the bosom of the avenue on March the 1st. On this icon, the Queen of Heaven transmits a key of women's summer to the acclamation, ecliptic according to the modern one, and the hands of the child of man's summer, go to the earth. I can imagine how the whole world of Masonic lies and hypocrisy is being worked now. Get it? And no need to sign for the delivery. We do not stop here. Let's continue. All of you have already seen the movies where I restored atheistic images of icons of letters, months, constellations, and the days of the week. Atheistic images, I repeat, and no obscurantism here. It's like in the ABC, the letter A means there must be an apple next to it. We have published a book, Tara, with the application of these reconstructed images. The prediction tool shows tarot cards at the same time. The tarot cards are based on our Russian cards. The tablecloth of OKLINTICA has been restored, on which the card's layout was made. Now let us compare it with a stone, a find from Aztlan. We see that it's the same thing, ecliptic with an equivalent Christian Christ and cross. The two eyes are the same as those on tablecloth that follow the sunrise. Now we have to find the stone on which the supposedly flying saucer is depicted again, from which a ray of light shines on the angel who depicts Ankh from his body. Search it on the internet for yourself. What is Ankh? A Coptic cross, a symbol that supposedly started its origin from the ancient Egypt. It's a cross with a circle instead of the upper one, bar, vertical line from the crosshairs. That is, that we already see Egypt and Mexico are the same. Now we will compare all the three sculptures, and it's quite obvious. There is no doubt that they are the same. Remember how the rule of law had been replaced by orthodoxy. I have repeatedly shown how they describe the ecliptic, prescribing star asterism. Here's another Ankh observation pitchfork, the bosom of the crab. Here's the third eye. We look with the two eyes, but we see one line. Why are the eyes slanted? Because not the eyes themselves are depicted, but the area that we see with our eyes. Bring a piece of paper to your face, and you will see these areas. It is simple. There are no flying saucer. Well, if you want, for example, to call the Kazan Cathedral like this, no problem. And let us remember that in the middle of St. Isaac's Cathedral, where on Christmas Day the rising sun is penetrating through the open embankment of the cathedral, and its doors stands face to face with the bronze horseman. Is this also apparently a flying saucer? I have already told you about it. The real Pasch, I mean about the sliding lines in the construction of the temples. All the small stone plates of paleocontact are elementary beacons. Some of them were illuminated from the inside. Why are the men inside them? It's elementary. I just told you, we look with the two eyes, but we see one line. The line that we lay in the mind through these patch beacons where they were installed. There is no third middle eye, but the line is still the same. That's how they explained why all these men, supposedly pilots, cannot be an elementary pack of supposedly those capitals, which I told you that they were installed on the window in the altars of the temples. Well, what was the difference between them? There was no difference. The same color feedback function in the circular line of the ecliptic. Even if you try to come somewhere in the tribe and explain the work of astrophysical and geodesic instruments to people with primitive language and without education, you will not succeed. And they just looked at our instrument, astrophysical images of letters, and scratched something on their stones. Well, what shuttles with nozzles of engine could there be? Elementary figurative destination of a spyglass tube with lenses. According to their representation, the sun flew there into this pipe. If you restore the Russian culture and not invent paleocontacts, you will see for yourself. Sort out the real Russian culture first. What do you need to know to understand the Russian culture, the culture of Rus? So what is the difference between this culture and the astronomy and the astrology? Well, of course, those images of letters, monthly time, constellations, numbers, days of the 10-day week. Take your last name, for example, and spread out the images. After looking in the book Cha-Ra, you can decipher who were your ancestors and what was your mission to live in this world. Let me remind you that in the ancient times, surnames and names were assigned in Rus after the graduation and were called komi. And what have you heard about Welter and Cloelos de Cloiste? And why can't the builder transport a temple or just a cave of stones on a hill, and can't you place ankhs at the bottom? You see how easy it is to teach people to navigate in the calendar to the sun, to teach them to sow and harvest. Still, it's very simple. It's a simple po, ra, vil, lo, slovie, the words of rules from the Russian language. Ra is not the sun in the ecliptic, but the ecliptic itself. Wake up, you have been fooled. The death of Vimanism version and other inexplicable nonsense on our planet has just come. Comrade scientists, get down to your business. Compare all the incomprehensible ancient drawings on the stones with atheistic images of Rus, and tell the whole world about this each drawing, which will not be completely unambiguous. It will be necessary to understand how and why the Russian interpretation of the teachings of Rus in this area has been changed. But it is unambiguous that our Russian people of Rus, walked along the river and sea routes all over the world and taught local people their craft. Have you ever heard anything about the antique-ticker mechanism? It's a mechanical device raised in 1901 from an ancient ship, from the ocean floor, from the ocean bottom. The remains of the ship and its cargo were discovered by a Greek diver on April the 4th, 1900, near the Greek island of Antikythera. The mechanism dates from approximately the second half of the 2nd century BC and is kept in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. The mechanism contained no less than 30 bronze pinions. The mechanism was used to calculate the motion of celestial bodies and allowed to recognize the date of 42 astronomical events. The device, similar to the Antikytherian mechanism, is mentioned in more than a dozen literary works which were written from 300 BC to 500 AD. Later on, the Masonic Inquisition simply did not allow printing such smart facts, and all the available books were scorched. In our time, not a single book has survived, and the mechanism is so ancient. So, what other conclusion do you want me to draw? What other conclusion can you draw yourself? It is necessary to burn all the books in the world. That's how it was before our era, in the days of Rus Impera. The Russian people, showing their devices and images, taught the local population of this or that area. Okay, this device had sung. How would I tell you all this now? Why did the Second Council of Nicaea prohibit all the icons? Now look at all the stone drawings and restored images of icons of Russia. The works are unpaved. Trigal's information will turn everything from head to toe. That will put everything in its place. Doesn't it hurt you for your fatherland, dear Russian people? Are you not offended for your homeland? They keep us as fools, they mock us. How can you still be a mancourt? Let's discuss the official information. See where they lie to us. The Aztecs are an Indian people in central Mexico. The number of modern Naos, as the Aztecs are also called, is over 1.5 million people. The Aztec civilization had a rich mythology and cultural heritage. In the Aztec national language, the natural word Aztec literally means someone from Aztlan, but if Aztec means Aztlan, or more precisely Aztlan, rather than Aztlan. So now everything is matched. Expand Aztlan, the land of nodes on the creations of flags. Did it all come together? Yes. The Aztecs themselves called themselves Mexica or Tinuchka. As for the origin of the word Mexica, from which comes the word Mexico, the word sun, in the language of natural name of the Aztec leader Mixalti. Misha, type of algae growing at like Tis Kopka, a continuous mina of curvature, knowledge. We remember Makael at draw and parallel, a miracle in the henna. Spizer's Sansar's mountain Dura Hall. Are there any such stone figures with the two arcs on their heads and sarcophagi in the same culture? Well, that's enough. We will even find the pharaohs. I wrote, there was no Aztec mythology as a set of Aztec civilization, myths of Mesoamerican cultures. There is just a modified culture of Rus and its knowledge. The most important position in the supposedly divine pantheon was occupied by the god of wind, heaven, stars, cultures, Ra, the god of night, magic, prophecy, the god of war, the sun, the god of rain, and the god of storms. Remember that I wrote about Peg's notes on the windowsill of the altar. They just carried out surfing on the board under the heel of the bull and observed natural phenomena, which in the culture prompted the meteor data. How could primitive people come up with an Aztec calendar? It is a complex system for measuring time used by the peoples of Mesoamerica. It first appeared in the Olmecs allegedly about 3.5 thousand years ago and later spread among the cultures of nations of central Mexico, including the Mayans and the Aztecs, who believed that time embodies the presence of the Creator as well as predetermines the meteor data and a happy, unhappy, or a neutral fate. Why do they have no elementary right to take atheistic stone images in their hands and predict events through the ecliptic setting? Where do you see the obscurantism here? Just to predict it, to guess, to throw a coin up to catch it and see what will happen tomorrow. Where is the mysticism here, comparable to what is happening now in our churches? Well, who are the stone people here? Why do they judge others by themselves? Everywhere they're just perverted. The official calendar consisted of two parallel cycles, a civil 365-day cycle, Shiupu Ali, which means count of years, corresponds to Ha-Abu in Maya, and a ritual 260-day cycle, Tonal Po-U Ali, which means the count of days, or the account of destinies, and corresponds to the Sol Kine of the Maya. Shio-Pu Ali and Ton-Pu Ali coincided every 52 years, forming the so-called century, called the New Fire. Come on, people! This is insane. 365 days a year you can see the sun. 260 days a year you can see the moon. Then tell us why all this stuff was invented and for whom? Are we all such idiots? So let us talk about the Maya. Officially, the civilization of Mesoamerica is known for its writing, art, architecture, mathematical and astronomical systems. The beginning of its formation dates back to the pre-classical era. Yes, that's right. Well, the pre-classical era is what it was before the introduction of the false and illiterate Julian calendar, which everyone later had to abandon. Officially, exceptional intellectual achievements of the pre-Columbian New World were created by the Maya people, including their system of writing and the calculation of time. Mayan hieroglyphs served both for the ideographic and phonetic writing. The Tzolk'in system, common in the Central America, is very ancient. Olmecs and the culture of formative epochs are similar, and they have sufficiently developed systems for calculating time that have developed even earlier than the Maya. Well, that's true. The culture of Rus extended all over America. To be exact, Forsan, long before reasonable dates of comprehension of occurring by the modern person. The Aztec calendar system, as recognized by the official history, is 3.5 thousand years old. So everything is correct. And remember what I wrote about the apocalypse. If you put together what happened 4,000 years ago in a picture of rescue star fortresses of Russia around the world, you will see the answer. Not after, but even before the apocalypse, all the ways ruled Russia by the name of the Pera, Rus Impera. For all these purposes, they built lifeguard fortresses, stars and pyramids with dolmens all around the world. For this purpose, they developed a plan of action for this emergency in two sections, during preparation and during the apocalypse itself. Remember, everything is described in detail. What have we officially heard about the Inca Empire? Well, it is the largest Indian state in the South America in terms of size and population, occupied the territory from the present Pasto in Colombia to the Maule River in Chile. The empire included the entire territory of present-day Peru, Bolivia and Ecuador, and partly Chile, Argentina and Colombia. Well, what kind of empire could there be under the peaceful culture of Rus? Inca calendar, a calendar system created in the pre-Columbian era of Inca civilization, consists of solar and lunar astrophysical calendars. Calendar year consists of 360 days divided into 12 months, 30 days each. But nobody cancelled 13 real constellations of ecliptic in the above-mentioned cultures. It is quite clear that the culture of ancient Egypt is strongly overlapping with the above. Look at the ancient drawings, and everything will be in its places, and their iconography will become clear for you. Officially, the history of the ancient Egypt also has a pre-apocalyptic period of 4 millenniums. The time limits of the ancient Egyptian culture accepted by the researchers cover the period from the middle of the 4th millennium BC, and the culture of Rus came to the ancient Egypt for the 2nd millennium BC at least. The Egyptians believed that every human being consists of physical and spiritual parts or aspects. In addition to the body, each person had a soul, ka, life force, and ran, name. The heart, not the brain, was considered the center of thoughts and emotions. After the death, the soul was released from the body and could move at will after the judgment. But it needed a nascent physical body. The soul of the deceased went to the Osiris court where the heart was weighed on the scales of truth. On the left, there was heart of the deceased, and on the right, a feather. If the heart was not burdened with sins, the deceased could move anywhere. But if you change the name Osiris to Rod, family in Russian language, so tell me, what's the difference now between all of this and the real reincarnation culture of Rus? Look at the aesthetic image of the judge, the fate, and the trinity of the creator. Reincarnation is a physical fact. The Trinity matters, the light and the mind. The genius of the judiciary determines the fate. I was talking now about the concept of the true Russian faith, not about the scarecrow of hell or the lure of paradise where everyone sits in the stall and waits for the next meeting of the executioner, the court. I repeat, it is not the executioner, but your family, your road that will judge you in the real Russian faith. In reality, reincarnation is a physical fact. Now let's talk about the oldest biblical history. Officially, the features of Jewish history, the historical memory in the collective Jewish consciousness. There is nothing more to read further. Listen to me, I repeat, the features of the Jewish history, historical memory in the collective Jewish consciousness. Can you understand everything now? Officially, we all invented this. No stones and traces except the invented Old Testament and the history of ancient Israel and Judea. If you do not believe me, please read it. Open Wikipedia and read the features of Jewish history, historical memory in the collective Jewish consciousness. That's it. Remember now what I told you about Jerusalem, which was built by the culture of Rus with evidence, and why they laid astrophysical action in the wall of Veil. The beginning of Jewish history is associated with a fictional biblical era. The information about the Canaan and 12 tribes is a fiction, because nothing has been confirmed. Compare the above artifacts with the phrase "features of Jewish history," historical memory in the collective Jewish consciousness. Jews, you have been fooled by the Masons, brought you from the different places, and they invented a fairy tale to you. Remember where you had been taken from and restore your family memory. Stop doing nonsense, stop being ridiculous. I have described everything about the resettlement. It's not so hard to do it already. I think that those people who deceived you will be rewarded. Yes, they are already being rewarded. Soon there will be no German population left in Germany. The wave of racism is rising again. And what have you heard about the Chinese Ganji system? The few of 60 Tai Suis symbolizing the years of the 60-year cycle in the Big Bear Temple. In one of the buildings of the Taoist temple Changchun in Wuhan City. Do you think this is not another Russian laboratory, a container of images? Let it be something different. But what's the basis? The 60-year cycle of the Chinese calendar system based on a combination of 10 and 12 characters. The characters of each of the cycles follow in pairs and in strict order. Celestial trunks and earth branches are depicted on the pictures. The asymmetry of the two cycles leads to the fact that the sequence of the celestial signs is renewed for the last two earthly signs. In this way, a new unique combination of pairs can be generated, a trunk tree. The established system of Ganji signs is fixed already in the earliest layer of Chinese written monuments, in prediction inscriptions of the Shang epoch for the recording days and years. Just hear the word, prediction. All the religions of the world are based on prophetic images of laboratories, predictionary images, images of letters, months, constellations, days of the week, real images. You say St. Petersburg is 300 years old, but how about the fact its culture is many thousands of years old and older than the stones of Mexican, supposedly paleocontact? Is it okay for you that the full Machu Picchu arc is built basing on the same Russian ideology of the star fortresses and culture, of the same notions and images? Well, the ancient city is associated with the days of the solstice and the equinox. Here we can say, everyone was watching it. So take the stick, smart guys, and try to do it with your own mind and calculate all these 4 days. Try it. Calculate it. And if you succeed, it means that you have understood that once in 4 years and the extra day comes, and you know how the eve of Cassian Day, the eve of March the 28th, a point is played at 2021 days, controlling its sunrise, and the beginning of man's summer. Maritime March the 1st in the bosom of the alleged all-seeing eye. The point is being played to get into Pascha. Take the count, smart guys. Can't you find this cave on Machu Picchu? Half of the city, all its agricultural terraces are built so that after March the 1st the shadow cease to overlap and each other from the same steps. The city is in the mountains. Think about it. full of slopes and you can easily make mistakes. But half of the city, its home, stands so that the winter sun does not close on the slope. All the same time, this winter sun is not on the agricultural terraces, and it appears in early man's summer with the coming of the pendulum cases. How well planned and located are the object of life support here? Do you think the modern layout of settlements takes into account the movement of the sunrise point on the horizon? So which one of us is a savage? What has the Holy Inquisition of the Reich turned us into? I have already told you about how Peter the Great removed the smart astrophysical clock from the Spasskaya Tower of the Kremlin, and how many such clocks were there all over Russia. How many of these clocks were sent to Europe? How many clocks could not be removed peacefully? How many books had to be burned? How many cities, how many officials worked for this system? Did I tell you that the war of 1812 is not a war, but it was just an order to burn Moscow? I mean, remove all our past, erase it. No one gave in, so that's why Moscow was burned. How many things were destroyed and tricked by strangers and their officials, already by us, our officials, for the sake of money? Why do officials always sell the country so easily for the sake of money? We were turned into cattle that do not remember their own culture and kinship. But that's not the main thing. How much indifference, hypocrisy can we see from ourselves every day? And yet, you will not be judged by another hangman who came down from heaven. You will be judged by your family for your actions, what they managed to understand themselves and what they taught people around them. May all the good come for your family.